from quiz 10. And we have word problems. Yes, there will be word problems on your quiz. Sigh. Okay, so first problem. On a typical Friday night, 20 of the drivers pulled over by police in Rockland County were driving under the influence of drugs or alcohol. This is true. This came right out of the newspaper. This was 40% of the drivers that were stopped. How many drivers were stopped? Now for a problem like this, you probably aren't able to find the is and the of, but we do have that alternative formula, part over total, and that we could probably figure out, and that equals percent over 100. So when you're doing step 1, maybe don't look for the is and the of. Instead, let's look for part over total. So let's look. On a typical Friday night, 20 of the drivers pulled over by police in Rockland were driving under the influence of drugs or alcohol. This was 40% of the total drivers. Okay, so 40, that's our percent. Question is 20 the part or is 20 the total? It says this was 40% of the drivers that were stopped. We don't know how many drivers were stopped. It might have been 100, it might have been 200. We don't know the total. We do know the number that were under the influence, the part that were under the influence. So this is how you would set a problem like this up. From there, just like all the other problems. So step 2 is cross multiply. You would get 40n equals 20 times 100 is 2,000. Okay, a 2 with 1, 2, 3 zeros, 2,000. Step 3, you're going to divide by 40. Both sides, 40 and 40. So these will cancel out and n equals, well, let's cross off a 0 here and a 0 here. And we want to figure out how many times 4 goes into 200. So 4 goes into 25 times. Nothing left over. Bring down a 0. 4 goes into 0. 0 times. So how many drivers were stopped? 50 drivers were stopped. And 20 of them were under the influence of drugs or alcohol. So please, please, if you're out driving on Friday night, be careful, and certainly don't drive under the influence of anything. All right, here's our last example for this quiz. If New York State has 50,000 cases of COVID-19, which we're all dealing with now, and Rockland County, which is in New York State, has 6,000 of them, what percent of the New York State cases are in Rockland? All right, so again, we're going to do a 3-step process. We'll put our 100 in. Well, I hope you all agree that we're looking for the percent in this case. We don't know it. So that means our answer is going to need to have a percent sign. All right, now let's look at the other two numbers. We've got 50,000, we've got a COVID-19, but that's just part of a name, so we don't need the number 19. And we've got a 6,000. One of these is part and one of them is total. Hopefully you understand that New York State is the total number of people. There's lots of counties in New York State, so this is the total. We'll put 50,000 here. And the part that is Rockland County is the 6,000. So that is our step 1, setting it up. Step 2, we cross multiply. So we'll get 50,000n equals, we need to do 6,000 times 100. So that's going to be a 6 with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 zeros. 6 with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 zeros. Okay, then what are we going to do? Divide by the number with the n, in this case 50,000. Well, I probably should have done that as a step 3 over here. Okay, so what happens over here? These 50,000s cancel out, and our answer, well, look at this. A lot of those zeros are gonna go away. 1 0 here with 1 0 here. Do I have enough zeros? 1 0 here with 1 0 here. 1 here. Wait a minute, that's too many zeros. Sorry, I messed up on the number of zeros. So 1, 2, 3, and then one more. So we've got this improper fraction, we need to divide it out. 5 goes into 6. Okay, so how many times does 5 go into 6? Once. Subtract, you get 1. Add your decimal point in 0. Bring it down. How many times does 5 go into 10? Twice. With nothing left over. So what percent of the cases are in Rockland? 1.2, and then I hope you remembered percent, 1.2%. So New York is a big state. There's cases all over the state. We have 1.2% of the cases. Still very scary. I hope you're all staying safe, self-quarantining. I wish we could be back together, but it's for everybody's safety. Take care. I'll see you online. Bye.